Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about all these news stories that are coming out about coconut oil. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And you know, this is a big topic as I'm seeing it everywhere in my feed. I see multiple coaches, I see Alan Aragon, all these other people talking about it. And what people need to take into consideration here, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Okay, it shouldn't come as a surprise. You have all these researchers are now saying, hey, coconut oil probably isn't really good for you. It's not really a health food. And everyone's freaking out. You know, people are saying, oh my God, is it going to kill you? Is it bad for you? No, it's not necessarily bad for you. No one's demonizing it here. But the researchers have been saying for many, many years, don't start considering this some magical health food yet. We don't have enough research on it. We haven't researched coconut oil enough. And they were always very skeptical. All the nutrition researchers were skeptical. It's only people who write fad diets. It's people who write diet books. Those are the people all this time who have been saying, hey, coconut oil is a magical health food. It'll help you burn body fat. It will do this. It will do that. It'll help cure these diseases. It's got antifungal properties. It'll cure your candida in your GI tract. In some cases, crazy claims of it'll help fight cancer and things like that. Guys, these are spectacular claims, and people need to understand most of these foods, they don't have magical properties that do these things, and coconut oil was no exception. That was all just made up based upon very, very limited evidence. Okay, very limited evidence. And people need to understand, even if something had some antifungal properties or whatever, whatever's causing that gets broken down in your GI tract. You know, also arsenic has antifungal properties. Anything that's extremely poisonous has antifungal and antibacterial properties too. Anything that'll kill it. So, I mean, perspective here, people. And here's the other thing. At a certain point, did anyone looking at this really and honestly think that consuming a pure fat with no fiber, no protein, nothing like that in it is ever a good idea? I mean, does anyone honestly think that that's really a good idea for the overwhelming majority of people, that that's going to be good for your overall health or a good idea to consume in large amounts? I hope not. I hope not. Because even the evidence on ketogenic diets show that they're no more healthier than a balanced diet, and in some cases they're less healthy. In some cases, you'll lose less body fat than on a totally healthy, balanced diet full of all sorts of other stuff. Okay? It's generally agreed, and all the evidence agrees, usually higher carb diets, higher protein diets with fat moderated usually produce the best body composition changes, usually produce the best fat loss, particularly on a calorie per calorie basis. Ultra high fat diets are not generally linked with great health under any condition. Alright, and some people do well on ketogenic diets, but that's not the point. That doesn't mean that they're a good idea overall, or that anyone should ever be on this sort of diet as a long-term lifestyle endeavor. So when you look at it from that perspective, any sort of high-fat diet, even the most health-touted ones, aren't necessarily something a reasonable person should be following for their whole life. Okay, these aren't necessarily stuff you want to do long-term unless you have a medical reason to do so. You know, things like epilepsy. Alright, those people follow ketogenic diets, but here's the thing. Even a lot of the researchers who look at epilepsy don't like doing the coconut or MCT oil one. Why? I've noticed several researchers in their stuff have found because usually they get the least effective results. People are like, what? Yeah, they actually get lesser results. They have higher rates of seizures in their patients who try to do coconut oil or MCT oil, which is oftentimes extracted from coconut oil, actually don't get as much of the benefits for the seizure prevention. And they don't understand the mechanism, but it's just an observation several epilepsy experts have noticed with their own personal patients. So they don't prescribe that sort of diet, for that form of ketogenic diet, just because of that. Now, you know, and that's the other thing. You know, we're still talking about adding a pure fat. It's like all these people who want to add butter to their coffee, bulletproof coffee, hoping that it's going to help them burn fat. Again, in what world does anyone really think calorically dense pure fat with a low satiety in the form it's in is going to help you lose body fat? You might lose body fat while doing it, but it's not helping you. If anything, it's slowing the process down. Right? It's slowing the process down. And again, this is myth. This is fad diet stuff. This is stuff done by trendy people. This is not what the top experts in weight management, the top experts even in exercise, nutrition. This is not what they're promoting for any of this stuff. That's not what they're promoting. This is trendy, bad stuff, not necessarily based on the science. And just because someone does it out there, or you know someone who's a successful athlete or successfully gets rid of doing this stuff, doesn't mean it was the best way for it to be done. I mean, empirically speaking, when we look at it, it actually isn't. High-fat diets are not the best way for anyone really to get really lean. For some individuals, due to major insulin sensitivity and metabolic syndrome, they work slightly better for fat loss. But we're not talking people who are at normal body fats or just slightly overweight, okay? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the morbidly obese who need to lose usually at least 70 to 80 pounds of body fat to even be normal, all right? Who have insulin resistance. A good chunk of those people lose slightly more fat on these really high fat diets, okay? But once they get down to a certain weight and they only have like another 30 or 40 pounds to lose, those people usually lose body fat more quickly when they start incorporating more carbs and less fat. Once their metabolic syndrome is under control, once their insulin resistance has been brought down a little bit, that benefit goes away completely and it goes the other direction. And, you know, and here's the thing that people need to remember. Coconut oil is a saturated fat. And I'm not saying saturated fat in moderation is bad for you, because it's not. Again, people get caught up in these mindsets of good food, bad food. That's not always the case. All right, even the worst foods in the world, with the exception of maybe trans fats, you can handle in moderation without suffering negative health effects, okay? Saturated fats right there. But this is a large amount of it. And if you're consuming large amounts of saturated fat, irrespective of the source, probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. Consuming any liquid fat, probably not a good idea unless you are an endurance athlete. And this is the point. People will cite stuff like Dr. Jeff Volek and other people. Well, here's the problem. He's looking at endurance athletes. How many of you are struggling to consume enough carbohydrates to do all your cardio? And you got to remember, endurance athletes aren't trying to lose weight. Another big factor. Most endurance athletes are quite happy at the weight they're at. They're trying to maintain their muscle and their body weight while doing 20 or 30 hours of cardio a week, sometimes more. All right? Marathon runners, triathletes, people like that. Yeah, a lot of those people add all this extra fat to their diet. Those people benefit from a really high fat diet because they hit an endurance wall with carbohydrates. They deplete their glycogen stores too easily doing their training and their competition, and the additional fat adds extra endurance because it gives them another energy source to tap into. And keep in mind, they're doing that so they're not tapping further into their body's reserves. They're trying to hold on to their body weight. Therefore, they consume really high-fat diets to give them the longer burning, slower digesting, slower energy to do 8 hours of endurance in a single day, okay? Or 12 hours of straight endurance work without losing weight. Most of you out there, I can promise you, unless you're an endurance athlete, aren't trying to do 8 to 12 hours of cardio in one go while maintaining your body weight. And if that's your goal, then hey, really, really high-fat diets, adding a couple thousand extra calories of fat a day is beneficial towards that. But most people out there, outside of a competitive endurance athlete environment, aren't trying to do that. That's not their goal. That's not what they're trying to do. Perspective here, people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, people aren't saying coconut oil is this terrible, unhealthy food. They're saying that it doesn't really have the health benefits that people have tried to ascribe to it. It's just really ultimately another oil, probably not much better or worse than most of the other oils and pure fats that you're out there consuming. And for most people, probably isn't a good idea to add it to your diet if you're concerned your health. It might have flavor benefits, but if your goals are fat loss, overall health, things like that, probably not something you should be consuming in significant amounts. That's it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.